Hi, K-pop lovers. Welcome back to our channel. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because we talk about K-pop with facts, not just hype. Drop a like if you've ever defended BABYMONSTER in a comment section, and let me know down below, are you a day one monsties, or did they convert you later? Alright. Let's get into it. Let me paint you a picture. November 2023. YG Entertainment debuts BABYMONSTER, and immediately, the internet has opinions. The debut single, Batter Up, drops, and critics waste no time tearing it apart, calling it a dated iteration of the YG hip-hop formula, with unfavorable comparisons being thrown at Blackpink and 2NE1. And if that wasn't enough, there's more buzz because of delays and the absence of ahyeon, one of the group's main vocalists. On top of all that, YG announced the group would not be doing music show promotions during their initial debut period, which in K-pop is basically throwing gasoline on a fire of skepticism. People were ready to write them off before they even had a proper chance to stand on a stage. And that right there is the setup for everything I'm about to tell you. Stay with me, because what happens next is genuinely one of the most satisfying redemption arcs in recent K-pop history. Now here's something you need to understand about BABYMONSTER before we go further. BABYMONSTER is a 7-member multinational girl group under YG Entertainment, Ruka, Farita, ASA, ahyeon, Rami, Rora, and Chiquita, with members hailing from Korea and Thailand. These girls were not manufactured overnight. YG spent years training them through a grueling process, with fans noting that YG believes in what they call the wine method, taking time to craft excellence rather than rushing to debut artists, focusing on molding them into timeless artistry that stands out. But the internet doesn't want to hear about training philosophies. The internet wants receipts. And BABYMONSTER was about to deliver. On April 1, 2024, with all 7 members finally together including ahyeon, who had rejoined after recovering from health issues, the group released their debut EP, BABYMONSTER. And this is where the tide starts to shift. Because now they're finally on stages. Real stages. With real mics. And suddenly, people who had their arms crossed and their eyebrows raised started going quiet. But the moment that truly broke through the noise? December 25, 2024. Christmas Day. The 2024 SBS Gayo Taejun at Inspire Arena in Incheon, one of the most prestigious year-end music festivals in South Korea. BABYMONSTER took the stage for their very first Korean music festival, performing their intro and drip with handheld microphones. Let me say that again. Handheld mics. Not earpiece and backing track territory. Live. Fully live. And the reaction online? Immediate and overwhelming. Fans flooded social media with praise, with one user writing that BABYMONSTER had already set the bar high for rookies. Others said they performed like seasoned veterans, while some credited YG for molding the girls into perfection. One fan put it perfectly, BABYMONSTER achieved something simply unimaginable for a group of rookies, performing as if it was their last stage, microphone in hand, with incredible energy. That is not Stan Twitter being dramatic. That is people who watched the performance in real time trying to process what they just saw. But I said stay with me, because the story does not stop there. Not even close. Here is the part that makes this whole arc even more interesting. The critics did not stop. Even when BABYMONSTER started winning people over one performance at a time, there were still corners of the internet ready to pick apart every single note. And honestly, that is exactly what makes what comes next even more powerful. In April 2024, after BABYMONSTER appeared on Inkigayo, some critics accused the group of overperforming, with certain viewers even questioning why such elaborate performances were necessary for a music show. Think about that for a second. They were criticized for trying too hard. For caring too much. For going all out on a stage. In what world is that an insult? But the fans were not having it. Supporters fired back, pointing out that singing live should be the standard in the industry and applauding BABYMONSTER for showcasing their vocal skills without leaning on heavy backing tracks. They rejected the idea that energetic, committed performances were something to be embarrassed about, and instead called it exactly what it was, a testament to the group's dedication to excellence. That argument hit something real. Because in an era where lip-syncing and heavy audio assistance have quietly become normalized in K-pop performances, a group that consistently goes live, and goes hard, is going to make certain people uncomfortable. Both the critics, and the other acts who are not doing the same thing. And just when you think you have seen enough to form a verdict, BABYMONSTER announces their first world tour. Hello Monsters! Kicking off on January 25, 2025, at the KSPO Dome in Seoul, ultimately spanning 32 dates and drawing 300,000 people across Asia and North America. 300,000 people. For a group that had only debuted roughly a year prior. That is not a coincidence. That is not just good marketing. People do not shell out money, buy plane tickets, and stand in line for hours to see a group they feel lukewarm about. They show up because they have seen the clips. They have watched the fan cams. They know exactly what they are going to get when the lights come up. And what they get is exactly what BABYMONSTER delivers every single time, a fully live show. Concertgoers who attended Hello Monsters left reviews saying things like their live vocals were amazing and the level of talent is simply undeniable. One attendee described the production as top-notch, noting that even with one member on hiatus, the group brought everything they had and kept the crowd going for the entire show. And that detail matters more than people realize. Member Rami went on hiatus to focus on her health during the Asia leg of the tour, meaning the remaining 6 members carried the full weight of a world tour stage, live, without their complete lineup. And they still delivered. That is not a talking point. That is proof. Now let's talk about November 2025, because this is where things get genuinely cinematic. BABYMONSTER performed 2 nights at the 2025 Mama Awards held at Kai Tak Stadium in Hong Kong, their biggest award show moment of the year, showcasing their trademark power, precision, and vocal dominance on one of the biggest stages K-pop has to offer. They also took home the Fans' Choice Female Award. But the performance that had everybody talking happened on the second night. Members Farida, ahyeon, and Rora took the spotlight with a special stage performance of Golden from the K-pop Demon Hunters soundtrack, earning widespread praise for powerful live vocals, emotional delivery, and technically impressive harmonies. And yes, some criticism surfaced online about the song's high range and certain vocal choices. But here is the thing, even the criticism was proof of something. People are no longer debating whether BABYMONSTER can sing. They are now debating the technical details. That is a completely different conversation. That is the conversation people have about artists who have already cleared the basic bar so convincingly that critics have to go searching for something new to pick apart. Thousands of viewers who praised the Mama 2025 performance pointed to the trio's ability to deliver challenging high notes live and maintain control in front of an audience of 50,000 people inside that stadium alone, plus millions more watching the live stream around the world. That is the kind of pressure that exposes artists. That is exactly where you cannot hide behind a studio recording or a well-mixed backing track. And BABYMONSTER did not just survive it. They commanded it. So what does all of this actually add up to? Let us be real about what happened here. A group that was mocked for their debut single, criticized for skipping music show promotions, and questioned at every turn about whether they had the live vocal ability to back up the hype, that same group turned around and sold out 32 world tour dates, drew 300,000 fans into arenas across 2 continents, delivered back-to-back nights at one of Asia's most watched music award shows, and became so consistent at performing live that the criticism quietly shifted from, "Can they even sing?" to, "Well, those high notes were a stylistic choice." That is a glow-up of historic proportions. And they are not done. In March 2026, YG Entertainment announced BABYMONSTER's second global world tour, the Chung World Tour, Set to begin in June 2026 with a 3-night residency at Jamsil Indoor Stadium in Seoul, with expansion planned across 5 continents through 2027. 5 continents. This group is not slowing down for anyone. What BABYMONSTER represents in the 5th generation of K-pop is something genuinely rare. In a landscape where the industry has made it increasingly easy to mask vocal shortcomings behind polished production and audio assistance, they kept choosing the harder road. They chose hand mics at year-end festivals. They chose to keep singing live on a world tour even when a member was on hiatus and the stakes could not have been higher. They chose to put 3 of their members on one of the biggest stages of the year and let them carry a technically demanding song with absolutely nowhere to hide. Every single one of those choices was a statement. And the critics? They got quieter with every performance. The receipts are in. The 300,000 fans at Hello Monsters are the receipts. The Mama stages are the receipts. The sold-out arenas from Seoul to Seattle are the receipts. And for everyone who was there in 2023 saying BABYMONSTER was not ready, was not good enough, was not going to last, well, they are still here. Still live. Still going harder than most groups twice their age and experience. And they are just getting started. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, you are a real one. Go ahead and hit that like button right now, it genuinely helps this channel more than you know. Subscribe if you have not already, because we break down K-pop with this level of detail all the time and you do not want to miss what is coming next. Share this video with a fellow Monsties, or better yet, send it to someone who still doubts them. And drop a comment below. I want to know, what was the BABYMONSTER performance that fully converted you? Or if you are still a skeptic, tell me why. I read every single one. See you in the next video. Annyeong.